His name was Roberto. He came through the back door at 10:23, 14 months after his wife died, wearing a button-down shirt that had been pressed carefully. The shirt of a man who had decided this occasion required a certain formality and had prepared for it the night before. He was 69 years old, 5'10", dark-haired going silver at the temples, the specific build of someone who had worked with his hands for a long time and had carried the evidence of it well into the years when the work was behind him. Maya was in front of him. She had hold of his hand, not the handhold of a child guiding an adult. She was 9. He was a grown man. She did not physically need to lead him. It was the other kind, the handhold of a child who understood that the person behind her needed the contact more than the direction. The specific, instinctive gesture of someone who knows what it feels like to walk into a room where you don't know what's going to happen to you and wants to make sure the person she loves doesn't have to do it alone. He came in and he looked at the kitchen. He looked at the windowsill, the fake succulent, the cactus, and then at the table, at the people around it, at Beau on the floor who had raised his head and was conducting his assessment with the unhurried thoroughness of a dog who has learned that new arrivals generally warrant measured interest rather than drama. His eyes landed on the dog. He said, in a voice that carried the specific accent of a man who had learned English as a second language and had spoken it fluently for decades, but whose first language still shaped the music of his sentences. "This is the dog with the real tail." Maya said, "That's Beau." He looked at Beau. Beau looked at him. The tail began its steady, unhurried movement. Roberto said, "Yes, that is his real tail." He came in fully. He closed the door behind him. He stood for a moment with the particular stillness of someone who has arrived somewhere new and is taking the measure of it before deciding what to do next. Not uncomfortable, precise. The stillness of a man who had spent a career as an engineer and who approached new situations the way engineers approach new situations, observing the parameters before acting on them. Then he said, "I was told there would be cookies." Norma said, "There are always cookies." He sat down. What Roberto said before the conversation began. He accepted coffee. He took a cookie, Carol's, which he held for a moment, and then tasted with the attentive focus of someone for whom food carries meaning beyond nutrition. He set it down. He said, "These are good. My husband's recipe. I'm still learning it," he said. "My wife had recipes I never learned. I regret it now. There are things she made that I cannot recreate, and I have tried." He paused. "I found her notebooks. She wrote them down. But the instructions assume you know things. She wrote, 'Cook until it looks right.' How does a person know what right looks like if they were never there when she cooked it?" He said it without self-pity, as a practical problem. Stated plainly, a man who solved problems and had encountered one he could not solve with the usual methods. Carol said, "Richard wrote more vanilla than it says on the recipe card. For years I added just a little more, and it was never right. Then Maya told me she used to pour the vanilla with him. She knew the amount from her hands, not the card." Roberto looked at his granddaughter. Maya said, "Abuelo, I can try to help with Grandma's recipes. I was with her in the kitchen a lot." He looked at her for a moment. He said, "I know. She always said you were the best assistant she ever had." He picked up the cookie again. "Better than me, certainly. I was not useful in the kitchen. She told me so regularly." Norma said, "Dennis was the same way. He once tried to help me make soup and managed to burn water. I didn't know that was possible. He found a way." he said. How long has it been? For you? Norma said. 4 years in November, he said. And it gets. He stopped, started again. Does it change? Different is not easier, but it is better than the beginning. He nodded. He said, that is an honest answer. People keep telling me it gets easier, and I keep thinking this does not feel easier. But different. I can understand different. He said, Maya tells me you were a doctor for 40 years. I told him that was right. He said, she tells me you have seen many people die. I told him I had. He said, she tells me you know what they reach for at the end. I told him I did. He said, I want to know if Gloria was afraid. He said it directly, without preamble, the way engineers ask the question they came to ask, having established the credentials of the person they are consulting and confirmed the relevance of the expertise, and then going straight to the thing. The table was quiet. I said, tell me about Gloria, so I can give you the most honest answer I have. What Roberto told us about Gloria, and what it revealed. He told us about her for a long time, not in the organized, linear way of a man reporting facts. In the way of a man who has been carrying a person inside him for 14 months and has found for the first time a room where the carrying can become speaking. He told us that Gloria was from a small town in Puerto Rico and that she had come to the mainland at 19 with $60 and the address of a cousin, and the specific, absolute confidence of a woman who had decided that the life she wanted existed somewhere, and she was going to go find it. He told us that he had met her at a dance in 1977. She had walked in, looked around the room, identified the person she wanted to talk to, and walked directly to him and said, You look like someone interesting. He said he had not been particularly interesting at the time. He was 22 and shy and studying engineering and did not know what to do at dances. He said she had spent the next 46 years making him interesting by proximity. He said she laughed at everything. Not the polite kind, the full kind. The kind that started somewhere in her chest and arrived without warning and filled whatever room she was in. He said that one of the things he missed most was the sound of her laughing at something on television in the other room. He said the house was a different kind of quiet now. Not peaceful quiet, but the quiet of a specific absence. He said she had loved fiercely and without reservation and had told people so, with a consistency that sometimes embarrassed their children and never embarrassed her. He said she had called him mi amor every day for 46 years, including the days they were angry with each other, and he did not understand until she was gone that the calling of his name that way had been the structure his days were built around. He said she died on a Tuesday. He said it without dramatic emphasis, just the fact. I looked at Norma. Norma was looking at the table. Roberto said she had been having some pain. She told me it was nothing. She said she was fine. This was characteristic. She was always fine, even when she was not fine, because she did not want to worry people. He paused. I went to the store. She needed yogurt. I bought the wrong kind. I went back. He was quiet for a moment. When I came home, she was in her chair. Henry was on her lap. He looked at his hands. He said, the cat would not move. For 3 days he would not leave her chair. I had to bring his food to the chair. Maya reached across the table and put her hand over her grandfather's. He looked at her hand. He said, she was not afraid. I know this because I know her. If she had been afraid, I would have seen it on her face. But her face... He stopped. Her face was peaceful, the way it was when she was sleeping, the way it was when she was exactly where she wanted to be. He paused. She was in her chair, in her house, with Henry. She was exactly where she wanted to be. He looked at me. He said, "Was she afraid?" I said, "No." I said it with the certainty of someone who does not offer certainty lightly, and who understood, from everything Roberto had just described, that the answer was the only honest answer available. I said, "A woman who announced her gladness at every door she walked through, who called her husband mi amor for 46 years, including the hard days, who filled rooms with the specific quality of attention that made every person in them feel like the most important thing, who loved a cat and a granddaughter and a grocery store woman, and a husband who bought the wrong yogurt with the same full, undivided, completely available love. That woman had a clean relationship inventory. She had nothing unsaid that needed urgently to be said. She had given everything she had to give, fully, every day, for 67 years. I paused. The people who live like that are not afraid at the end. Roberto looked at me. He said, "You are certain." I told him I was as certain as I had ever been about anything in 40 years of medicine. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Good." He picked up his cookie. He took a bite. He said, "Good." What happened after Roberto said good, and what the table did with it? The morning had found its center. Not the way Tuesdays usually found their center. Gradually, through the accumulation of conversation and the natural emergence of the thing that needed to be said. This one had found it immediately, in the first 30 minutes, in the directness of a man who had come to this kitchen with a specific question and received the specific answer. And now the question had been answered, and what remained was the morning itself, the particular quality of a room in which something significant has happened, and the people in it are deciding together, without discussing it, what to do with the space that the significance has opened. Norma said, "The yogurt." Roberto looked at her. She said, "Maya told us about the yogurt, that you buy both kinds." He said, "Yes." She said, "Why?" He said, "Because she preferred the other one, and I kept buying mine." And then she was gone, and I still bought mine, and I thought, if I stop buying hers, then I am saying something I am not ready to say. He paused. "I know it sounds," Norma said. "It sounds like something I understand completely." She said it with the flat authority of someone who does not soften the things that are true. She said, Dennis had a specific coffee mug. Terrible mug. A mug from a conference in 1998 that he'd had for 20 years. He always used it. I hated it. When he died, I kept using it. I used it every morning for 2 years. She paused. She said, "Then, one morning, I put it in the cabinet. Not because I was done with him, because I understood that I could keep him without needing the mug to prove it. That the keeping was happening somewhere that didn't require the object." She looked at Roberto. She said, "The yogurt is not the yogurt." He said, "I know." She said, "But it is also not nothing." He said, "No, it is not nothing." Carol said, "When will you know?" She said, "When will you know it's time to stop buying the second yogurt?" He thought about it. He said, "I think when I can walk into the refrigerator and see only my yogurt and not feel that the refrigerator is telling me something I don't want to hear. When it is just a refrigerator again, and not a record of everything that changed." He paused. He said, "I am not there yet." Carol said, "You don't have to be." He said, "No, but I will be. I think I will be." He said it with the specific quiet confidence of a man who knows what patience is, because he has applied it to difficult problems before, and has learned that the application of patience is not passive. It is an active relationship with time, a decision to let the process take the time the process requires without forcing an outcome before it is ready. He was an engineer. He understood that some things cannot be rushed without failing. He would buy the yogurt until the yogurt was no longer needed, and that was exactly right, what Roberto and I talked about when the others were at the other end of the table. At some point in the middle of the morning, Norma had organized. I say organized, but with Norma it is less organization and more gravitational force. The women and the children to the far end of the table around the subject of Carol's recipe notebooks, which had become a topic of some interest since Roberto mentioned Gloria's. Lily and Maya had opinions about cooking. Norma had stronger opinions. Sarah was mediating. Roberto and I were at the near end. He said, "You lost your wife." I told him I had. He said, "How long were you married?" I told him 41 years. He said, "We were 46, 14 months ago." The math is still wrong to me. I keep thinking it should be 47 by now. I told him I understood that completely. He said, "Do you talk to her, your wife?" I told him I did. He said, "I talk to Gloria every morning, in Spanish. My English is good, but my English is the language of work and engineering and the outside world. My Spanish is the language of home. She was my home." He paused. "So I talked to her in Spanish." I told him that was exactly right. He said, "My son thinks I should see someone, a therapist. He is worried about me." I asked him what he thought about that. He said, "I think I am grieving. I think I am doing it correctly, within the parameters of what grieving correctly looks like for a man like me. I am functioning. I am present for Maya and for my son's family. I am eating. I am sleeping adequately. I am maintaining the house and the car and the life." He paused. "I am also buying 2 yogurts and talking to my wife in Spanish every morning, and sometimes sitting in her chair with Henry, even though I am not a cat person." Another pause. "I do not think I need a therapist. I think I need time, and possibly a table like this one." I told him the table was available every Tuesday. He said, "I know. Maya told me. She has been very thorough in her reporting." I said, "She's remarkable." He said, "She is Gloria, completely. The eyes, yes, but also the directness. The way she walks into a room, the way she asks the question without apology." He looked at his granddaughter at the far end of the table, in animated conversation with Norma about something related to vanilla. "Gloria used to say, 'Maya got the best parts of both of us, and none of the difficult parts.' I told her that was not accurate. Maya has plenty of difficult parts. They are just organized differently." He said, "She brought me here because she was worried about me. She said, 'Abuelo, you need somewhere to put the yogurt that isn't the refrigerator.' She said it exactly like that, like the yogurt was a problem to be solved, and she had identified the solution." I told him she had been paying close attention. He said, "She pays attention to everything. She gets it from Gloria." He was quiet for a moment. "Gloria used to say that the most important skill in life was noticing. She said most people looked, but very few people noticed," she said. There was a difference. I told him Margaret had said something similar, that "I just wish you'd notice more of the things that are right in front of you." He said, "Smart women." I told him they appear to have been. He said, "Did you notice more, eventually?" I told him I had. Late. But I had. He said, I noticed Gloria. I want you to know that. I was present for her. Not perfectly. I had my years of being somewhere else. Every man does. Every person does. But I noticed her. I saw her. Every day for 46 years I saw her. He looked at his hands. She knew it. That is what I keep coming back to. She knew I saw her. There was nothing left unsaid in that direction. He paused. He said, what I did not say enough, what I am sitting with now, was the specific things. Not I love you. I said that. But the specific things inside the love. Your laugh fills the whole house, and I have organized my life around being in the house when you laugh. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I have known it since 1977, and I should have said it in those exact words. More often. He was quiet. He said, she knew it, but I should have said it in those exact words more often. I thought about Dennis's card in the desk. 4 sentences, written and never given. I thought about Margaret's letter, written and given 2 weeks before the diagnosis. I thought about Richard's journal. The good things. Carol understood this one. I said, the specific words matter. You're right. They do something the general ones cannot do. He said, yes. He said, I am saying them now. To her photograph, to the chair, to the air in the room when I think she might be in it. He looked at me. Is that foolish? I told him it was the opposite of foolish. I told him about Maya asking whether the love had somewhere to go. I told him what I had told her, that the love I had observed across 400 deaths was directional, that it pointed, that it did not simply stop. He listened. He said, a physicist would disagree with you. I told him I was a physician, not a physicist, and that what I had observed in those rooms was not subject to the laws he was referencing. He said, I know. I am not actually disagreeing with you. I am telling you that the part of me trained to require evidence is fighting with the part of me that already knows. I asked him which part was winning. He said, the part that already knows. It has been winning since November of last year. Every morning in that chair. Every yogurt in the refrigerator. He paused. Every morning when I say Buenos dias, mi amor, and the room feels less empty than it should. He said it quietly, as a confession. The confession of a precise, evidence-based man who had been confounded by his own certainty about something that his professional training told him could not be certain. I told him, the room feels less empty because it is less empty. He looked at me. I said, I don't know the mechanism. I can't tell you the physics of it, but I have been in 400 rooms at the moment when the thing that was in the person ended, and what I observed in the rooms that followed, in the families, in the people who loved them, in the specific, shaped way the absence organized itself in the lives of the people left behind, is that the love continued. It did not stop. It changed direction. It needed somewhere to go, and it went there. He said, to the yogurt. I said, to the yogurt, to Maya's hands when she pours the vanilla, to Henry in the chair, to the Buenos dias in a room that feels less empty than it should. He was quiet. He said, I want to believe that. I told him I thought he already did. He said, yes, I already do. What happened when Norma came back to our end, and what she told Roberto. At some point, Norma extracted herself from the recipe conversation and came back to our end of the table with the air of a woman who has been monitoring a separate situation with her peripheral attention and has decided it is time to intervene. She sat down. She looked at Roberto. She said, I want to tell you something. About your wife. He looked at her. She said, I didn't know her. I want to be clear about that. But from what Maya has told us, over several weeks now, in the specific and detailed way Maya tells us things, I know some things about who she was, he said. All right. She sounds like the kind of woman who could walk into a room full of strangers and make every single one of them feel like the reason she came, not through performance, through genuine attention, the kind of attention that says, you matter to me, and I want you to know it. Roberto was still. Norma said, the world does not make enough people like that. And when the world loses one of them, the people who knew her don't know how to explain to anyone who didn't what has been lost. Because what has been lost is not just a person. It is the specific quality of being in her presence. The way the room changed when she walked in. The way every person in it felt more seen than they were a moment before she arrived. She paused. She said, my husband, Dennis, was not that kind of person. He was a quiet man. He loved me specifically and well. But he was not a room filler in the way you're describing. She looked at him. But I have been sitting at this table for 14 weeks now, and I have been watching what the presence of the people we lose continues to do in the world. In Maya. In Carol. In Ed. In the girls who come through the back door. And what I can tell you with confidence is this. A woman who filled rooms the way Gloria filled them does not simply stop filling them. She said her love went to a lot of places. It is still going. You can feel it in the yogurt. Maya can feel it in her hands when she pours the vanilla. Henry felt it for 3 days in a chair. And you come here on a Tuesday morning because your 9-year-old granddaughter held your hand through the door, and you already knew that the love had sent you here. Roberto looked at Norma. He said, she did send me here. Norma said, I know. He said, I did not tell Maya that, but I knew when she asked me to come that the asking had a quality that was not only Maya, Norma said. Of course it did. He said, you believe that. Not because I can explain the mechanism, because it is observable. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, Gloria would have liked you. Norma said, I know. Lily's grandmother likes me. Carol's husband wrote about me in his journal, and now Gloria would have liked me. I appear to be the kind of person that the best people like. I have decided to take this as a compliment. Roberto smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since he walked through the door. Not a large smile. A small one. The specific small smile of a man who has been given something unexpected and has let himself receive it. It was the real kind, I noticed. What the table did with Roberto, and what he did with the table. I want to tell you about what happened in the last hour of the morning, because it was the most important part, and the part that is hardest to describe without losing something in the description. Roberto stopped being a guest, not dramatically, not with an announcement. At some point in the final hour, he was no longer the man sitting carefully in a kitchen he didn't know, measuring his words and managing his presence in an unfamiliar space. He was at the table, in the way the people who belonged at the table were at the table, leaning slightly forward, contributing to the conversation not as a visitor adding their perspective, but as someone whose perspective was part of the conversation structure. He told a story about Gloria and a broken dishwasher. He told it the way people tell stories about their people, when they have finally found the room where those stories are received. with the full detail and the full warmth and the specific pleasure of being able to say her name repeatedly in the telling, because the people listening want to hear her name, want more of her, want the story to go on. Norma laughed at the right moment, which is unusual for Norma, who generally laughs at the wrong moments. Carol asked a follow-up question that showed she had been listening with her full attention. Maya said, "I remember that. The dishwasher. She called you from 3 rooms away and said, 'Roberto, get in here. This machine has defeated me, and I need a witness.' Roberto said, 'She wanted a witness. She was very clear about that. Not help, a witness.' Lily said, 'That's exactly what Grandma would have done.' Carol looked at Lily. She said, 'Is it?' Lily said, 'She called people to witness things. When the cake came out right, when the garden bloomed, she called you and said, 'Come look at this.' Carol said, 'She did.' Lily said, 'That's the announcing kind of presence, making sure people see the good things.' Roberto said, 'Yes, exactly.' Gloria believed that good things doubled when they were witnessed, that the doubling was the point of sharing them." He paused. "She used to say, if something beautiful happens, and nobody sees it, it is only half as beautiful as it could be." He said it simply, reporting a philosophy that he had absorbed over 46 years and that now lived in him permanently. The way the language of a person we love becomes part of the structure of our own thinking, until we cannot always tell where they end and we begin. I thought, that is what full presence does. It does not only exist in the room while the person is in it. It changes the structure of the people it is present for. It becomes part of how they think, how they see, how they understand the world. Gloria was still in the room because Roberto still thought in her philosophy, because Maya still poured the vanilla with her hands, because Henry knew where her presence lived. The love was still going places. I could see it from where I was sitting, what Roberto did before he left, and what it meant. At 1:15, Maya collected the adults with the specific efficiency of a child who has been given responsibility over the timing and takes it seriously. She said, "Abuelo, we should go. Grandpa Felipe is coming at 2. Roberto stood. He went through the leave-taking with the particular care of a man who understood that what had happened in this kitchen deserved to be honored in the going as much as in the arriving. He thanked Carol for the cookies and told her the recipe was right, that Gloria had had a similar instinct about baking, that the right amount of anything was always more than the recipe said. He told Lily that her questions were the kind that made a room think. He told Sarah that it was clear where Maya's quality of attention came from. He got to Norma. He said what you said about Gloria filling rooms. Norma said, "I meant it." He said, "I know you did. That is why it helped." He paused. "I want to tell you something in return. Not the same way Gloria did. Your way is louder and less subtle, and sometimes you say the wrong thing at the wrong moment. But what you are doing when you come here on Tuesdays, what you have been doing for 3 years for this man and now for all of us, is the same thing in a different form. You are announcing, 'I am glad you are here,' every week, without exception, without requiring the announcement to be acknowledged." He said, "My wife would have recognized that immediately. She would have known what you were doing. She would have called you a person of the highest kind." Norma looked at him. She said, after a moment, "The highest kind?" He said, "Yes." She said, "Richard wrote something similar." He said, "Then Richard was also a precise man." She said, "He was. I underestimated him when he was alive. I try not to make that mistake with people anymore." He said, "No, neither do I. He got to me last." He looked at me for a moment. He said, "I came here because Maya asked me to. Because she was worried about me, and she had found something that helped her, and she wanted to give it to me." He paused. "I want you to know that she was right. This helped." I told him I was glad. He said, "I have one more question. Before I go," I told him to ask it. He said, "The yogurt? When I am ready to buy only one kind, when the refrigerator is only a refrigerator again, will I feel like I am losing her a second time?" I said, "In my experience, and I cannot speak to your specific experience, only to the pattern I've observed, the moment you stop needing the object is not the moment you lose the person. It is the moment you understand that you don't need the object anymore, because you have found somewhere else to carry them, somewhere more permanent, somewhere that is not a refrigerator or a mug or a chair." I said, "You carry her in your Spanish, in the buenos dias to the room, in the way you just told the story about the dishwasher, with her name in every third sentence, with the specific pleasure of a man who has 46 years of material and has finally found a room that wants to hear all of it." He said, "She is already elsewhere." I said, "She was always elsewhere. The yogurt was just a way of acknowledging it." He was quiet for a moment. He said, "Then I will know when I know." I told him he would. He nodded. He went to the door. He stopped. He turned back. He looked at the windowsill, the fake succulent, the cactus, for a long moment. He said, "Gloria would have brought something for the windowsill. She always brought something. She did not arrive at a place without bringing something." He reached into his coat pocket. He produced a small ceramic figure, a yellow bird, the size of a hand, painted in the bright specific colors of Puerto Rican folk art. He set it on the windowsill between the succulent and the cactus. He said, "She collected them. Yellow birds. The house is full of them." She said yellow was the color of a room that was glad to have you in it. He looked at the three things on the windowsill. He said, "Now the room is glad." He left. What I want you to take from this: 4 things. The first is Roberto's question, which is the question underneath all the other questions. This table has been asking for 15 weeks. Will I lose them again when I don't need the object anymore? No, you will not lose them again. You will find that you have been carrying them in ways you did not recognize as carrying. In the philosophy you absorbed and cannot separate from your own thinking. In the specific pleasure you take in a story that has their name in it. In the instinct that arrives before the thought. The reaching for the phone that stops midway. The second yogurt in the basket before the mind has caught up with the hand. They are in you. They've always been in you. The objects were just the acknowledgement. The second is Gloria's philosophy, which I think is one of the most important things anyone has brought to this table. Good things double when they are witnessed. The doubling is the point. If something beautiful happens in your life today, something true, something that matters, something that makes the day feel like it was worth being alive for, do not hold it in the interior. Find someone to tell it to. Not to perform the beauty, to double it, to give it the second life that every good thing deserves. Call the person. Show them the garden. Say, "Come look at this." The witnessing is the point. The third is about the yellow bird on the windowsill. Gloria brought something. She always brought something. Not because the host needed the thing, because arriving somewhere without bringing something was, in Gloria's understanding of how love worked, not quite arriving fully. The bringing was the announcement, the physical declaration of, "I came prepared for you. I thought about what you might need or want, or like, and I acted on the thinking. Think about the rooms you walk into. What do you bring? Not literally, though literally is also fine. Casseroles and cinnamon rolls and Danish cookies and ceramic yellow birds are all legitimate forms of the thing. But in the deeper sense, when you walk into a room that holds people you love, what do you bring? Do you bring your full attention? Do you bring the announcement, however quiet, however wordless, that you are glad to be there? Do you bring something that says, "I thought about you before I arrived"? That is what Gloria brought to every room. That is the announcing kind of loud. You can be that, not by being loud. The volume is optional. By being present, by making the gesture that says, "I am here, and I am glad you are here, and I came prepared." The fourth is the simplest. The room is glad. Roberto put a yellow bird on the windowsill and said, "Now the room is glad." I want you to find the yellow bird in your life, the specific, small, completely your own gesture that announces your gladness. And I want you to put it somewhere that the people you love can see it. Not because they don't know. Because the room should know, too. In the comments, I want to hear about your yogurt. The specific object or ritual or habit that you maintain for someone who is gone. You don't have to explain it. Just name it. And tell me what you think it will feel like when you don't need it anymore. Because I think you already know. And next week, Roberto said he wants to come back. He said he has more stories about Gloria. He said there are 46 years of them, and he has been saving them up with nowhere to put them. He said he thinks Tuesday is the right place. I told him Tuesday was always the right place. My name is Dr. Edward Carver. I'll see you then.